And so like to be aware of potentially why was super helpful for me.
Yeah. I felt the same way about my cancer, because right before then
Mm-hmm.
I thought I wasn't feeling well, but I thought it was mental health. I thought I was feeling depressed, and I thought I
Oh.
was manifesting physical ailments from that. So I had been going to the doctors and I was taking medication. And I was trying. And so when they said, no, this is cancer and you have a 10-pound tumor in your belly, I thought,
Jesus.
oh, well, thank God I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
This is something real and it's tangible and it's not in my head.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I felt the same way with that ADHD diagnosis. It's like, okay, some of this is out of your control and you just
Yeah.
have to live with that.
I didn't realize how positive you were, Jessica. You're like, oh, thank God it's just cancer.
Yeah.
Jokes in the gym. Jokes in the gym. Not jokes in the gym. Jokes in the gym. Jokes in the gym. With Rudy Tibersi.
What is up, my friend Oleos, my friend Anistas, my friend Rigadigidooskies? Didn't have the third one locked in, and I just thought I was going to wing it, and that's what happens. You end up with friend Rigadigidooskies. Not real, not fake, not even a thing. So that's what you're here ing today. Not even a thing. Welcome to Not Even a Thing, the podcast. Actually titled Jokes in the Gym with Rudy Tibersi. Tibersi, here I am, not knowing how to say a single thing. Sometimes I see that TH together and I'm just like, you guys belong apart. You need to be a TH separately. You know, we see the TH together so much. I just want to see you guys on your own. I want to see you shine. I want to see you do your best. Anyways, we're getting into the minutia of things nobody cares about. Welcome to my podcast. Thank you for joining. Sorry, I'm on my second and a half cup of half calf today, so I'm getting loopy, but I'm excited. I listened to the podcast today. It felt good. I have my friend Jessica Grant on. She's in Eureka. She does comedy. She had cancer. She has an album. This is my cat. She doesn't know what to do with this voice. She says, Papa, what is that voice? What is that voice? She's in my mouth right now, quite literally. Yes. Did you hear Bubba? Do you hear Bubba? Does she want to... What do you have to say, Bubba? Do you have some things to say? Do you have some things to say? This is how I'm just talking with my best, closest friend. So that gives you a little insight into my mind. This is how I'm talking to my best, closest friend. Hi, does she have some questions for me? Does she want to have some input? Does she want to give me a hug? I'll take a hug from my favorite Bobas. Yes, I'll take a hug from my favorite Bobas. She says, I don't know what you're doing, Papa. What are you doing right now? It's the cutest little thing. You're such a good girl. I love you. She doesn't understand what to do with those words. She doesn't understand. She says, Papa, you keep saying these words, but why? Why do you say them with such haste and such a lack of understanding for the rest of the world? I love you so much forever. And I love her forever. She's going to be a part of my life and who I am for the rest of my diggy days. You know what I'm saying, girl? You're going to die in like 10 years, and how sad is that? But in the meantime, we're going to have a great time. You're going to cuddle me. You haven't been cuddling me lately. Why haven't you been cuddling me? Can you tell me why? Well, she was a guest today. That was my first guest of the day. Foster, my girl. There she is. She's back. Look at this. If you're watching the video version, which you're probably not, you see a bunch of cat. I love a cat. I love a bunch of tail. There's her tail. Hi, Bobash. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with having a little cat time to open up a podcast. There's nothing wrong with that. I could have a cat podcast. A cat podcast. You know what I'm saying? And it would be totally delightful. And I hope you are having a good day. I hope you are doing something that makes you feel good. I hope you're doing something that, like, juices you up, fills up your stones. You know what I mean? Get some full. Because that's what life should be more about, is filling up your good juice box. You know, you want that good juice box filled. And so that's kind of what I try to do with my life, is just kind of fill it up with the things I really love and Sometimes that means knowing when to pump the brakes, and sometimes that means knowing to hit the gas. And I try to do both, you know what I mean? I'm a gas pumping, brake loving, squeezy cat having guy. And it's fun to try to find the balance in my life. That's what I'm doing. I talk about it with everybody. I'm probably a broken record. You probably hear every episode and you're like, why is he talking about the same things forever? Because guess what? That's what health is. Health is just doing the same things until you're dead. You know? Like, that's what it is. That's what it is. You just do it until you're gone. And it makes your life better. So that's what I like to spread. It's nothing new. There's no new information I share. There's no new schminny thing. I'm just here spreading the word of the things that I think are valuable, that have been valuable for me, and that I'm finding out are valuable for other people. And so that's kind of the main slant of the cast, of the pod, of the odd-assed, the podcast. I'm kind of odd-assed. I got an odd ass. But I do squats and lunges and RDLs and stuff like that to work on the booty. Hey, I'm also a personal trainer. If anybody wants to talk about working out, friggin' contact me. Everybody I have on the podcast, on the comedy podcast, none of them are like lifters like me. Nobody has been like a hardcore go to the gym lifter-rooney person. And that's totally fine. That's part of why I'm doing this. Is to talk with people about their variety of ways that they feel healthy and good and in their bodies. And so I want to talk with people who also love working out. I love the frickin' stuff. And most of my podcast guests are like, yeah, sure, I kind of like it or whatever. Or do this, and I know it's helpful and I know it's healthy, but I want to do it more. And I'm meeting people where they're at on their journeys. That's all I care about, is meeting people on their journeys while I'm on mine and hearing what's helping them move forward. Because I think that's valuable. That's the podcast industry, right? Talking with others about what has worked for them. And having some fun while we're doing it. I had some fun this last week. I had a lot of fun. Last weekend, I got to do a bunch of shows with Tom Rhodes. Then I got to watch Sam Talent and hang out with him and Nathan Lund and Luke and Seth and Sabrina and all the other funny comedians who were on the show at Olsen Run. And it was a friggin' delight. It was also a bumpy week, but I got through it. And now I'm starting the next week. We got a podcast coming out every Tuesday. Still trying to book next week, so let's get it done, teams. Anyways, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're having a nice day. I hope whatever state you're in, state of array, disarray, joy, whatever, confusion, cat, dumb, I hope that state is treating you well. It's giving you the things you need. I hope it's the state that is what your mind, body, and soul will grow from. And I talked with Jessica Grant about a lot of those things. How has she gotten through so many challenging parts of her life? They keep coming, and she keeps rolling with the punches. She is hilarious. She's doing great. She's got a house. I'm stoked for that. And we had a really great conversation. So I hope that you appreciate listening to us chat it up, get down to business on Jokes in the Gym, and without any further ado's, here is my wonderful conversation with the hilarious Jessica Grant.
Jokes in the gym. Jokes in the gym. Not jokes in the gym. Jokes in the gym. Jokes in the Gym with Rudy Tibersi.
Right on. What is up, 7 people who listen to the podcast? Thank you very much for stopping by today. I'm stoked to have my guest. She's a fellow comedian. We've been on plenty of shows together up and down the West Coast. She's based in Eureka. Is it Eureka? Is that where you say you live?
We just moved to McKinleyville, but yeah, Eureka is the more well-known town. Right
on. Yeah, McKinleyville. So near and dear to Savage Henry Comedy Club, and she's performed at Lucky's. I opened for her up here in Eugene at Lucky's, and we've been at the festival together. She has her very own comedy album available on Spotify and all those places called Kinda Sexy. Everyone, give it up for Jessica Grant! Woo, woo, woo! Air horns, yeah, crowd goes wild! What up, Jessica? How you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Call me whatever you
How
want.
about
Call me creep. Yuch. I'm good. No, I'm good. I was just saying, there was a big show in town. Sam Talent, Nathan Lund came through last night, so I'm like fighting off the tires. But it was so
Yeah.
nice. It's, you know how it is to go to a show when you're not involved. When's the last time you did that? Can you remember?
Actually, a couple weeks ago, Scott Powers and Emma Haney were in town.
Yeah.
And it was so relieving to not be on the show.
Oh my gosh.
You actually get to enjoy it.
Yeah, it's such a wonderful experience to like just go and hang out and watch a headliner and a full show that you have nothing to do with. You're like, oh yeah, I still like comedy too.
Oh yeah, and a show like that, Sam T is the one to see.
Oh my gosh.
Hilarious.
Sam is such an inspiration to me. He's got such a wonderful style. It's all over the place. He obviously is an amazing writer, but he's also just so flowy and
he's just naturally funny. I picked him up from the airport. He was here just a couple weeks ago for a one-night show, and we went through the Starbucks line, and he was hilarious just ordering his coffee.
Right.
He wanted just a whisper of cream. You know, He's like, you usually put a quarter cup. I want just a whisper. Even the cashier was cracking up.
Yeah, exactly. Like interactions with that guy are like gold immediately. It's so fun. And and he was so friendly and welcoming and like genuine. So it's just so nice when you come across folks like that on a regular basis. And in comedy, I think your experience, I would guess you've had a similar experience more often than not. Comics are just delights.
They really are. Yeah. There is this like instant feeling of family, I guess. I don't know. I don't have much family in real life.
Yeah.
So I think of all these comedians as my chosen family, but there is just something, you know, even if you don't become best friends, there's something that clicks right away when two comedians meet. And it's just really cool.
You know that this person's been through the shit. If they're still doing it, if they call themselves a comedian, and if you've never heard of them and they're still a comedian, they're like still doing it. That's admirable.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm learning, that there's so many comedians. There's so many people. There's the East Coast kind of community, and then the West Coast. And I'm learning about the East Coast, but it's so funny how the degrees of comedy, if I don't know them, someone I do know knows them well.
Exactly.
Always.
And that's you're off and running, it's like, oh, Nathan and Lund and I had 7 mutual friends or whatever, and we can chat about them and weird shit that's happened together, it's just fun. You're kind of immediately part of some kind of crew, and that feels nice, right?
It does, yeah.
Yeah, and it's nice when you guys bust your tails at the comedy club, you're working so hard all the time. And you do it because you love it, I feel super lucky. Eugene has a comedy club now, so I have this experience or the opportunity to go and just watch a show every now and again.
Yeah, yeah, it is nice. It's nice not to be on the show. It's nice not to be hosting. I absolutely hate hosting. I know you got to be good at it. Because I can't relax. I can't watch the show. All I'm doing is like waiting to hear them be like, well, all right, well, that's my time, so I can run back up there.
Right. Yeah. No, it's a different ballgame. Like it's a different job. It's totally a different job.
Yeah.
I like hosting because I think it's such an important job. And
it definitely is. Yeah.
It can make or break a night sometimes, it's
For
not,
sure.
You're not the center of attention, but you have to keep the flow going. You have to keep the vibes moving forward. You have to let people know things here and there. And I think that's kind of a fun thing to try to crack. I feel less pressure in some ways when I'm hosting. I don't know. Do you feel more pressure when you host?
I feel more pressure.
Okay.
I feel it's just that not being able to be done after your set. You go up and you do your warm-up set, you're opening up and you bring somebody up, and it's just constantly like, okay, what am I going to say between the next 2 comics? Especially if, a comic didn't do great. And you got to kind of pick up the momentum. It's like, okay, how am I going to do that before I bring the next person on? But mostly it's not being able to chill during the headliner because I'm just waiting.
Okay. Yeah. I've always kind of liked you got to stay on a little bit. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I got to stay on a little bit. Like, I like to relax, I need to relax, but if I'm in the club, if I'm somewhere, if I'm performing, I'm still in game mode. Like it's go time. And
Yeah.
so I can't ever really turn it off. So I think hosting then kind of gives me something to hold on to, a little something to focus on.
Yeah.
And you kind of get to know the audience throughout the night. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's a fun part of an extended period of conversation with somebody.
Yeah, that's true. I props to everybody who's really good at hosting. I'm okay at it.
Yeah.
I know I'm not the best.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just like I feel more pressure when I'm featuring, even though I love featuring. Featuring's like the most fun job in comedy, is what I say. Featuring, if I could feature forever, oh my gosh, it's so juicy. You just get to go up before a headliner's crowd, and they're like ready to pop. They're excited to go. You got that 15 to 20-minute spot kind of ready to roll, and like people are there for fun. It just feels like dessert,
It is. It's my favorite spot too. And I've headlined, quite a few times, and
totally.
Honestly, yeah, feature is where it's at.
It really is. And I'm like working on my 20 to 30-minute set right now, and it feels good where I'm at, and kind of like aiming towards that feature idea, just because it's fun and it's a nice chunk of time. And who's watching stuff for more than 20 minutes these days anyways?
Yeah, really.
And so how long is your album?
I think it is 49 minutes, 47 to 49 minutes.
Nice.
Including, I left the intro and outro from Evan Vest hosted.
Oh, fun.
So they're pretty funny. Cracks a joke at the end. It's pretty funny.
That's great.
Go ahead, skip through the album and just listen to that last track.
Yeah, stay for the host. Yeah, Evan's hilarious, and I made my own thing, and it's like it could have been so much longer than it was, but it's like nobody needs this. I don't need to do any more of this. This is just self-congratulatory at this point.
Yeah. I had just gotten over COVID right before I recorded my album, so you can hear a lot of sniffs, a lot of coughs. We tried to edit most of them out, but every once in a while you get a little taste of like, oh, okay, she's sick. Okay,
she's a human being, and I kind of like that. We don't get these chances all the time to do like a weekend of shows necessarily to get it right or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you're a human, you're a comedian, you're however long you are in the game. You're not like, it's not like you have a bunch of TV credits so everybody knows. It's like, no, we're doing this because we love it and because it's important to us. When you made your album, how has it felt like since completing that? Because that's a big milestone.
It was, I did it like 2 years ago almost. It took that long I was just so intimidated to listen to it. I, hate the sound of my own voice. But it feels good to have something there. It's almost like now I can move on with my comedy and start writing more, and I'm not trying to perfect that same joke that I've been telling for years to get it down. Now it's recorded, it's there, if I need it for reference. But yeah, it feels good to have something because I've been doing comedy almost 9 years. So it feels like I ought to have something to hold on to by now.
Right. That's it's just nice to have a little drop of juice in the comedy ocean. And it's like, I'm a comedian, and I worked my tail off to do this thing, and it's out there now, and I think that's super cool. So good job. Good on you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you said you've done it for about 9 years. What do you remember what it was like when you started? Do you remember like what got you in the open mic or whatever?
I didn't know that we had a long-standing comedy open mic that existed for like 3 years before I started comedy. I bought a book by Judy Carter, The Comedy Bible by Judy Carter, of course.
I love it. I love the Comedy Bible.
And, one of the first things she says is pick a date, set it for 2 weeks ahead, and keep it. So I did that. My first open mic was actually, I was on a date.
Ooh.
I had booked it for the same time. This person had asked me out, and I was like, you know what? if you're willing to go watch me do comedy for the first time, yeah, we can go on a date.
Was that a first date too?
It was a first date, yes.
Oh, damn.
And it didn't last after
Okay.
that, because as soon I fell in love with comedy, I was like, oh, boys, no, I don't care.
Who cares?
That first open mic, I was like, this is definitely my thing.
Yeah.
I'd been writing for years. I always kept a little notebook. I didn't know, I didn't really know that I was going to do comedy. I didn't know why I was writing all this stuff down.
Right.
But
That's
it's
so cool.
great to have.
Yeah. Well, cool. How awesome that you had like a reservoir of ideas to kind of draw from when you were starting. Was it, and so have you always been located in Northern California, kind of Eureka, around there?
Yeah, born and raised in Humboldt County.
Born and raised. Booyah. I'm finding there's a fair amount of, do you find Eugenians come down to Humboldt County? I'm sure a ton of Oregonians do, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. We get Oregon comics pretty often. We get Seth and the crew, and we also, I was running a comedy workshop for a while on Sundays, and we had a person who would drive down all the way from Eugene to attend it.
Oh, dang. Was it Carrie?
It was Carrie, yeah.
Carrie's the best. Carrie's so cool. Yeah, he's such a delight. He's at the fest just like giving out joints and high fives and laughing. Carrie's a delight.
Yeah, and then there was a time where I came up and I did the Slice show.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't a mic, and Carrie was there to watch too. And it's like, it's so cool to have friends in all these different places. You never feel alone. I guess that's a really cool thing about comedy, and I've only done a little bit of touring, but I've done it by myself, and it's really intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get in a room and you see someone with a pen and a notebook, and you're like, oh, there's one of my people.
Yeah, exactly. I started in Korea, and so like I have all these friends that like I will see to this day in the States and like do comedy with, and it kind of like just reinforces that, oh, that was a time that happened. I was a young comic once, or I lived in this place once, or I went to Denver for a weekend, or whatever the case may be. And you're like, that just gives me this sense of comfort, kind of,
Yeah.
And having that with people all across the globe is so important.
Yeah.
I got to, what did we do this weekend? Tom Rhodes was in town this last weekend, and he got to do shows in Springfield and in Eugene. 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. Saw a plethora of experience. You know how mics go. You do a weekend at the fest or whatever, and if you got 4 shows, one might be a banger, and the other ones are shows that you're still doing, and you're having fun, but it's like, oh, there's a guy with like an eye patch and a hook, and you got to make him and his girlfriend laugh. Like, that's the whole crowd.
Yeah.
And so having someone come see your hometown, I don't know. I feel like I want to just get other people's viewpoints of where I'm from. That's super interesting to me, It's so fun to see like a headliner get on stage and riff about Eureka for 10 minutes.
It is. And they, for the most part, all of them say the same things, which is even funnier. That someone coming into our town, they're all making the same observation, but in different ways, and it's hilarious. We just had Tom Rhodes about a month ago, and I got heckled meanly for the first time. I've really never been heckled. I've had a couple people like shout things or confirm what I'm saying, and I mentioned something about quitting my day job to do comedy, and some man just said, "Well, I don't think you should have." And I'll tell you what, it threw me off so hard. And Tom was ready to go to bat for me.
Good, yeah. Tom
was like, "What the heck?"
Love, yeah. Tom is a good guy. I really like Tom. I have a good time with him.
Yeah,
that sucks. Sometimes when I get hit with a heckle, I don't know what the fuck to do. It just blindsides you.
I just don't want to heckle. Was mean. I was like, man, that was pretty mean.
I bet that got a laugh.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. I mean, I bet that was, oh my gosh. Yeah. I've been heckled, and then like it has definitely ruined a set before for me. But
it's hard to recover once you get so flabbergasted, I guess.
Totally. It is like getting punched in this gut sometimes, and you're like, I didn't plan for that in my prep.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever been to slam poetry before, but nobody ever goes like, this poem sucks during it. It's like only comedy.
Yeah.
People at concerts aren't like, I hate this song. It's just like a weird thing that we have to deal with that nobody else has to.
Well, the first time I ever did an open mic was in Seoul, South Korea. It was at a tiny little Aussie bar, and it was mostly poetry. And I was the only guy who did comedy there. And some guy heckled the poets before me.
Oh my gosh.
He heckled the poets.
Okay, so I stand corrected.
And I was like, okay, I can kind of get down with that. But it's also just fun to figure out how to deal with that. One thing I'll try to do is like, okay, if I get heckled after the show, I'll think about a handful of ways I could have responded. Like,
yeah.
And not so I can like do it exactly that way next time, but just so I'm in the mindset of like, okay, things could fuck up. Something could go weird and I could have to think on my feet. And that is when you're like really in the pocket.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like, it's fun to deal with it in a way, because when it works, when you are able to like do that crowd work, negotiation, management, it's magical for the people in the room who are there for a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. I try to think in other comics, like what would Dave Attell say? What would Sam Talent say if he had been heckled like that? Obviously, something would have rolled off the tongue and it would have been amazing.
Right.
And how do you get to that point where you're just comfortable?
Yeah, exactly. And so it's fun to give it a try. And I'll like this Wednesday, it was a small crowd. I was doing 30, and it's like, okay, you got to bring something. I want to have fun. I want these people to have fun. And so how do I bring that energy in a way that is like authentic to the moment? And sometimes it's on you to like really bring something new and fun and kind of different. And sometimes it's like, okay, I'm just doing the act. I'm just getting through the act.
Yeah.
And it's I got to do the time, and that's the job. And it's up to you to kind of feel which way works better for you at the moment, because some nights I might not have the energy to do all this like heavy lifting as far as energy is concerned.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So that's what I'm trying to do, is like find ways to manage my energy. That's literally like my number one priority right now, is finding balance in my life and that kind of stuff. I've seen you posting like some Planet Fitness, some workout stuff.
Yeah.
You're out there, you're doing it. Like what have you been doing lately to kind of find your energy, to find some balance in life?
I actually just started a garden nursery business with a friend.
Damn.
So we've been planting seeds, and I
Literally.
didn't know how much you do squats. You do a lot of squats while you're planting.
Oh, deep squats. Yeah.
Yeah. And so just being outside with my hands in the dirt. You know, not we here in Humboldt County have quite a harsh winter. It's been really wet. It's been really overcast. And so we've had a couple weeks of sun. It's just making me go crazy.
Yeah. That's so cool. I had no idea. So I know Humboldt is a growy place, right? I remember seeing a place that said, "Thank you, growers," on their outside sign. And I'm like, what about the showers?
Yeah.
But what started the nursery business, and what are you specializing in?
Well, what started it is last year my dad passed away. We moved into his house in McKinleyville, where we have about an acre of land.
Cool.
And it's
but
kind
not cool.
It was kind of a surprise. It was kind of not. It was kind of a surprise that we moved in here, because I didn't think we were going to. I thought that maybe we would sell it, or I'm glad we did though. But basically, we've got a beautiful yard, and I have the time, and it felt like, you know, it would be crazy not to do something with this place.
For sure. So it's like is it like a farm home? Or was this your childhood home? What's this house?
This is my childhood home. Yeah, it's a single wide trailer with some additions built on, so it's a little wonky. It's a little green acres, as my dad used to say.
Heck yeah. I like that.
And we're specializing in, you know, like native plants. We're growing a lot of stuff from seed and taking clippings from around the yard that we already have established.
That's so
Yeah, it's pretty
cool.
cool. We're having our first sale tomorrow, actually. We got rained out last
Ooh.
weekend.
Ooh.
So hopefully we make it big and get rid of a
You're
bunch of plants.
yeah, planting all those seeds. That's so fun. Congrats, good luck.
Thank
Sell
you.
those seeds. Yeah, grow the earth. We need more shit to be grown here, right? Isn't that
Yeah.
I have no clue about conservation or anything really. Are you like learning things about the earth or planting?
Oh, I'm learning so much. The person that I'm doing this with is another comic that I met maybe last year, the year before. And she has a degree, a master's degree in botany. And so she knows, I already
Oh.
knew, a handful of things, but she knows everything. And so I've learned a lot. We planted a garden bed here in my yard, and it's layered garden. So we did lettuce, beets, and
Mm.
carrots. And since they all take a different amount of time to grow, you can just
Mm-hmm.
throw them all the seeds in the same bin. And so
Really?
right now we're doing cut and come again lettuce, and then in a couple months we'll get carrots, and another couple months we'll get the beets because they take longer.
That's so
So
cool.
it's really cool, space saving.
Yeah. It's kind
Yeah,
of like a joke almost, right? You plant it and
yeah,
then 2 or 3 months later it's kind of in shape for it to be usable.
yes, and the parts of it go away, and new
Yeah.
parts come in. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
It,
there's so many ingredients to putting together a good joke, right?
for
And
sure.
it doesn't happen like that. But sometimes
No,
it kind of does. Sometimes it does.
I'm learning patience for sure. I'm learning that I'm not a very patient person because we're starting things from seed,
Uh-huh.
and it doesn't come up the next day. It takes weeks for some of the seeds. Some of the seeds we sowed 2 months ago, they're still not sprouted.
Weird.
They just take a long time.
Oh.
And so, whereas I'm used to going to an actual nursery and just buying baby plants and have them
Totally.
already ready. But yeah, I'm becoming a lot more patient.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, especially if you're in the comedy game, you've done it for a decade, it's like, you have to be patient. You have
Yes.
to be patient, especially in a market like Humboldt or Eugene, like these smaller places. It's like, why are you doing comedy? You need to be honest with yourself and realistic about the possibilities, because
Hmm.
if you're not loving the process of it, it's mostly process.
Yeah,
Like,
it is mostly processed.
we don't so, and you probably don't have I don't know how many mics are there in a week in
Currently, we
general.
have 0 mics. The mics were taken away by Big Papa Chris.
Oh no.
Because some new people had come out and were just using it to argue with other people. Definitely not using
Boo.
it for comedy. So he took a month break. But normally we have three mics: Sunday, Wednesday, and then a Friday early mic at 7.
So Chris, let everybody, you gotta act right. You gotta
Yeah.
get your head straight, you ding dongs.
Yep.
Oh man.
Trevor and I missed that mic. We didn't see what happened, but we have heard, and it was just like comics using their time to argue with each other, or
Oh, that sucks. That's one of my biggest like pet peeves in comedy is like people using a mic as a soapbox. I'm like,
yeah,
you can share your opinions, yes, but work on some fucking humor too. That's what it's about. It's like, I don't care if I agree or disagree with you. As long as you make it funny, then
Yeah.
we're on to something. But if you're just up
Yeah.
there like flapping your gums, being a ding dong, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is no fun.
My favorite is when people say that they don't have anything to say. Oh, I don't know what else to say. You don't have to do the full 5 minutes. You can be done. It's okay.
Oh my gosh. I love when a comedian cuts a set short. I'm so
Yeah.
excited when they're like, oh, well, that was 3 minutes. Bye.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, this is good job. I don't want to see, because I'm so feeling. Like I
Mhm.
feel the pain of a comedian on stage.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm in their elbows, like I'm right there with them on stage.
Yeah.
And so like when they're like dying on stage, I'm like, oh no, comedy will never exist again, and it has never existed before. Like I'm very dramatic because it feels
Yeah.
so harsh.
It does. You definitely develop more empathy in comedy, I think.
Yeah, and I'm also developing I don't know, the opposite. You kind of have to be a dickhead too at some points. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
I don't have time for everything all the time. I can't do all the stuff. I can't listen to the sets. I can't be at every mic. I can't do everything that I want to do. And so it's like boundaries are so important, and they make you kind of look like a jerk
Hmm.
at the same time. Have
Yeah,
you
but
been able to like cut anything out? Or have you made any like hard lines in the sand or done anything that has been like, oh, that felt good, that was maybe hard or anything like that?
I took a big step away from comedy when my dad
Mm,
passed. Not just because
mm,
I wasn't feeling funny, like things weren't. I couldn't imagine why people were laughing at anything at that
mm-hmm.
point in my life, but because
Right.
we were moving and I had all these new responsibilities of being a homeowner and a landowner
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
and maintaining that property, taking care of all the things that my dad hadn't taken care of because he was so sick for a while. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so I stepped back big time. I wasn't going to mics. I was not doing shows. Maybe I
Right.
performed maybe 5 times in 6 or 8 months, which
Yeah.
is like, I was going from 3 to 4 days a week to that.
For
Um,
sure.
but I think as much as I feel guilty about it, because I do have this like tinge of guilt, because it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like riding a bike. Now that I'm getting back into it, I'm
Mm-hmm.
realizing that I'm rusty.
Yep.
I need the practice. We need those mics back, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, but
it
that's
was
also
good.
yeah, taking that time away for yourself is important, like
I needed to evaluate, is this something that I'm doing for fun? Is this something that I want to do as a career? Is it possible?
mm-hmm.
Is it, I did a tour. I drove to Denver, um,
Mm-hmm.
and I did it by myself, and it felt like a
Mm,
huge accomplishment. It was really, it was
totally.
really cool. But it was lonely. It was lonely
Yeah.
being on the road like that by yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
having an opener or feature, somebody to come with me would be really cool. It's all learning, but
Yeah,
it definitely gave me time to think about it and develop an idea of what I really want to do, which is
for
comedy.
sure. Okay, yeah. Where did you land? Because sometimes I've talked with a lot of people like from Korea or from other parts of the States, like from other times in my comedy journey, and not everybody is still on the track that they
Hmm.
once thought they were going to be. What did you kind of land on? What did you find that you're like, oh, this is what I want. I want to do X, Y, and Z.
I want to do comedy. I want to do it as a job, but I don't want it to be the only thing I do.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have a day job, you're working an hour, maybe 2 to 3 hours total with drive time in the evening, and so I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
imagine not having more to do. That's where the nursery business and kind of getting into landscaping during the nicer weather. And I do
Mm-hmm.
art and other projects and stuff
Mm.
that I can work in, but yeah,
Fun.
just evaluating it and seeing what I think I'm capable of, and I think I'm
Mm-hmm.
capable of more than just that.
Right. I am, I say this regularly, but it's something I try to keep in mind. It's like just because you can do a job, and I've seen that you can headline a show, right?
Hmm.
I know that I can headline a show. I know that Seth can headline a show. I know that Luke or Angie or whoever can headline shows. Just because you can doesn't mean you'll get the opportunity to do that. You
Hmm.
know? So like whenever you do, like you have to take advantage of that as much as possible and savor it, because I don't know the next time I'm going to have a 45-minute set coming up,
Yeah.
maybe in a couple months I might have one, or but whatever. So it's just like, just do it, enjoy it, and try to live your life in a way that doesn't make you go crazy for comedy.
Yeah,
Like a lot of people go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs in the comedy scene, and it
they
is
do.
not a pretty ending.
No, it's not. And I have had friends who have passed away, that
Mm-hmm.
we know so many people. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know that for those people, comedy was a good thing. Comedy can be
Right.
really depressing.
Yeah.
And, I think I use it like everybody does as therapy a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I noticed that in the past month or so, I've been really writing just about my childhood
Okay.
and noticing like I'm moving through a timeline, and
Yeah.
some of it is dark, obviously,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and some of it is just silly, but it's really helpful for my mental health.
Yeah.
I don't know how it is for the audience right now because it's all new material to me, but
Yeah.
it's been good for me.
That's good. Yeah. And that's one of the tricky things about like performing new material and working on stuff. It's like I don't want to see that. I don't want them to like think I'm just trauma dumping on them. Like
Yeah.
I'm not trying to do just that. I'm still trying to make it funny and entertaining and relatable. But there is that like it's that like 6-month period of growing your hair is like
Mhm.
when you're trying out that's vulnerable material. It's like, oh well, this doesn't look great, but I got to do it to
Yeah.
get to the place I want to.
Yeah, I've had some people come and give me hugs after some sets. I'm so sorry. It's not what I was
Well,
looking for, but thank you.
yeah, you deal with some heavy shit in your comedy, right? You're a cancer survivor.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I just hit 3 years in remission.
heck yeah, booyah. Good job,
Thank
Jessica. That's freaking dope. And you deal with that. You
Yeah.
jump on that topic on stage. Was that something that like you were ready to attack immediately, or did that take some time to approach?
It took some time. It took I didn't do much comedy during that either. It was COVID and I was going through chemo, so I had to be really
Jeez.
careful about not getting germs.
Yeah.
And so probably halfway through my chemo treatment, I did 6 rounds every other week. So
Damn.
not too long.
Yeah.
I
Is
started.
that a light?
Yeah, that's a light round and no radiation or anything. I did do the type of chemo that makes you lose all of your hair, nose
Yeah.
hairs, eyebrow hairs, eyelashes.
All of
It is
it.
insane, yeah.
Wow.
And did you know that you need eyelashes and nose hairs to keep stuff out of your nose and your eyes?
Oh, they're there
'Cause
for
that's
real.
what I learned. Yeah, they're not just for vanity.
Yeah. So you're just like, why are all these things in my eyes? I have
Yeah.
cancer. This sucks.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to worry about my eyeballs too.
Yeah, and I lost my hair after the first session. It started coming out in clumps, so I ended up shaving my
Jeez.
head.
Yeah.
And I kind of liked it. I mean, it was a cool experience.
Right.
Having no hair, having nothing to tend to.
Yeah.
The eyebrows is what got me. You really need eyebrows.
Yeah. The eyebrows really kind of keep the human on you.
I don't know how Whoopi Goldberg pulls it off, but she's fine. But like, not me. I need eyebrows.
Is she eyebrow free? I didn't know
Yeah,
this
I don't
about
know if
Whoopi.
you've ever noticed that, but she never has eyebrows.
Oh, Whoopi! Wow, interesting. I'm watching The Stand right now with Whoopi on it.
Oh yeah.
Have you seen The Stand?
Mm.
It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Have you read Stephen King? People keep talking about Stephen King like, oh my god, you have to read. And I've never read a Stephen King book.
I read Pet Sematary when I was in like the 6th grade and did my book report on it. And the teacher
geez.
called home to make sure that everything was okay. Like, your daughter's reading this. But that's about it.
Yeah, oh my gosh, that's so funny. I would love to be a 6th grade teacher and the kid's like, here's my book report. It's like, you are a psychopath.
The part where the toddler gets hit by the truck is,
is
a metaphor.
Is the highlight of your book report.
Yeah.
Jeez Louise, yeah. So this is called Jokes and the Gym, and it's like I do like talking to people about like what you do to find health. Like, what has your gym been lately? Are you going to PF? What are you doing these days?
I am. That was actually my first time I went as a guest.
Oh, nice.
For a friend. I did have a membership there years ago.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, if you're going to survive cancer, you generally gain weight. And so during chemo, I blew up. I probably gained 60 pounds. And I went through menopause at 30. So that's a part of it, too. So losing weight has been a really difficult thing for me. I have been 308 pounds at every doctor's visit since I started chemo.
Oh, wow.
Or finished chemo, not started.
Yeah.
And I used to be an aqua aerobics teacher. I used to teach aqua aerobics at a local gym here.
I love that.
Was in the best shape of my life and quit to pursue another job. And so I have that muscle memory, but boy,
for sure,
the top of my thighs from the elliptical on Monday.
Yeah, you are feeling it. Like if you go to the gym for the first time in weeks, months, years, like you're like, oh shit, what have I not been doing?
Yeah, exactly. And I like to think of myself as pretty active. I do, I do stuff. I'm trying to eat healthy. I'm eating my
Yeah.
greens now that we've got the cut and grow lettuce.
Heck
But
yeah.
but yeah, just realizing like, oh no, I'm not active enough. I need to be more active. I am heavier
Right.
now than Chris Farley when he passed
Oh,
away, which
that's
is
just...
like, what is that?
that
If that's not motivation, I tell you what.
you're out there with the legend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, I mean those kinds of I don't love to compare, right? It
yeah,
doesn't do great things for your mind, but sometimes a realization like that, you're like, "Oh shit, I do have to do something." Like
yes.
I have to make moves in my life if I want to be happier. And usually they're not all fun.
No, and I feel good. I remember this burn of exercising and the feeling that
Mhm.
you get when it starts to go away and you're climbing the stairs and it's just that much easier.
Mhm.
Tying my shoes was easier because
Mhm.
I'm becoming more flexible. So keeping up
Yep.
with that. And then now we've got nicer weather. I'm going to want to go out and do fun stuff for exercise too.
For sure, yeah. And it's so rewarding when you feel better. Like even
Yeah.
just like drinking less gets you in a better shape, or
Mm-hmm.
smoking less gets you in a better place. And it's like,
Yes.
what are these little changes that I've made in my life that have allowed me to like enjoy a Wednesday more? Like,
I have walked away from smoking blunts. I love a blunt. I love a tobacco
right,
wrapped marijuana no matter what.
totally.
But breathing at the gym,
Mm, yeah,
it was,
it doesn't let you.
I could hear myself over my earbuds just like panting. I was like, okay.
I need to turn this up. This is bad.
Yeah.
It's what was the old Sandler, Fatty McGee? Do you remember those albums where did you
Oh
listen to
yeah.
Adam Sandler
Yes.
CDs growing
Yes.
up? Oh my,
The
those
toll
were like
booth
my
Willie.
Toll Booth Willie, yeah, the longest pee, like
Yeah.
all the talking goat. That was like
Hmm.
my childhood growing up in comedy, and he had that Fatty McGee character, and everyone was like, "Oh, Fatty McGee, you're the fattest."
Yeah.
And
Well, and that was like the we were watching the Drew Carey show, and I was
oh,
thinking
nice.
about how at that time when Drew Carey show was first out, people picked on him. He's a big fat guy, and I'm looking at him and
Mm-hmm.
I'm going, no, he's not really that big. He's not really a very fat guy at all. But like in the 90s, that was the fattest you could be, and it has, I've tried not to just think in vanity, but it has motivated me to.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like getting in shape is great for my health, but it's probably good for comedy too.
Yeah,
Delilah.
yeah.
Sorry.
Doggo agrees. Hi, pup.
Sorry.
What's your dog want?
That's Delilah. I don't know, something moved in the breeze outside.
Oh, Delilah.
Yep, that's
Yeah,
what it was.
that's what it is.
Sorry.
If you're outside on this, yeah, you gotta if you gotta go help Delilah or do a Delilah thing, that's chill too.
That's okay.
But
I think she's
we're
done, but
good.
now she's just barking in every direction.
She's all over the place.
Baby.
Yeah. Hi, sweetie. Yeah. I've got a yard and cats and stuff like that, and it's just so nice to be able to go outside and do stuff. Like, I'm constantly fighting blackberries. Does you if you're planting
Yes.
stuff, you must have you must tend to this acreage, right?
Yes, so we little by little I'm out there with my weed whacker taking back the yard from the
Yeah.
blackberries, yes.
Yes.
We have a plant called crocosmia here, and
Ooh.
it's really prolific. It is that and ivy. Ivy is just the
Yeah.
bane of my existence, and my
Mm.
grandmother, who originally owned this house, planted it on purpose on the fence line, so it's like destroying everything. But yeah, that's a good portion of my exercise is just keeping up on the yard. And we just sold our my dad had a riding lawnmower, and I just sold that because we have a push mower, and I thought, you know what, between Trevor and I, we can do it and we should do it. Can you stop? That'd be great. Thank you.
She said maybe.
Yeah.
Mowing the lawn and blackberries for me is kind of meditation. It's
I'm
it's
sorry.
kind of that zen moment of my day. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it
I just got
is.
to be out there and like you said, taking back the night. You got to take back the
Yeah.
lawn. It's right there. And I'm working on this bit lately about like I don't know if I have an arch nemesis, but if I did, it might be blackberries.
Yeah.
I've been fighting it my whole life. It leaves me bloody and scarred. It could
Yes.
literally kill me. I'm up on a friggin' ladder at the top of the house trying to like cut shit off the trellis, and I'm like,
Yeah.
blackberries might murder me today. Like I could die from this.
Yes. Yeah, they're
But it's
gnarly, and
also
then you weed whack them and
awesome.
they come flying at you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I
But
like blackberries. I like picking them, but I just don't want them in my yard.
yeah, there's so much, and I have 5 neighbors around me. Like I'm in a backyard. It's a decent. I'm in my mom's. I live in the backyard of my childhood home. So like
Oh, nice.
I'm in my mom's like in-law unit. Like there's a
Hmm.
cottage in the backyard, and it's nice to spend time with family. And like my dad and my mom, they're both getting older. Dad's nearby. His partner died not too long ago, and he lives in a double wide. And he's talked with me about like I could get the double wide someday, and he's
Hmm.
starting to talk with me about those things, because
Yeah.
it's on his mind as well. And so it's like dealing with mortality. I mean, you have been through the ringer, Jessica. Like that's a fucking 5 years, dog. Like that's a
Yeah.
lot of stuff to go through, and you're still just like chugging along and fucking kicking shit up and making a business and doing comedy specials.
Yeah. At this point, I've lost both my parents, and I think that it has been motivational for me to want to make them proud no matter what, kind of. They're both really influential and important, and we had really close relationships. And
Hmm.
so it still, it still keeps me on track. I still kind of get that voice in the back of my head, like
Yeah,
I don't want to give up, and I mean, part of me wanted to give up hella, but I don't want to give
totally.
up and not succeed in the things that I wanted to succeed in anyways. But I do it, a little bit for them, not to be corny or whatever.
Well, I mean, you find your motivation where you find your motivation. And I think that that's totally legitimate, obviously. Like, yeah, these are the things that my parents instilled in me, or this is what I think about when I think of mom or dad, or what I want to share with the world. And like you said, it is kind of this therapeutic experience to be able to make joy out of that pain.
Yeah.
Like you've talked about your cancer treatment and your mother on stage and stuff over
Mhm.
the years that I've seen, and it's like hilarious. Like it's so funny and good, and to be able to give that to people is such a gift for them and for yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, my
Yeah.
favorite thing during my cancer, because I don't talk about it as much. In fact, my therapist the other day was like, "You had cancer?" Because I've only been with her for about a year, and
Yeah.
it was like, yeah, it's just I not that I moved on from it, but I've got other things on my mind at this point. My
Mm.
favorite was I'd get done with a show and somebody would come up to me without fail, be like, "Oh, you have cancer? My aunt had cancer. She died." Oh, my cousin had terrible cancer. He had both his legs removed. I'm like, okay, well, thank you.
Great. You're not
Something to look
it,
forward to. Awesome.
yeah, I'm glad I got both legs,
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. So it sounds like you're like moving along. You're doing stuff that's like feeling good. What are your like goals moving forward? Do you have things that you're working towards or specifically in mind?
I want to get back on the road for
Yeah.
comedy.
Yeah.
At least a weekend a month, I think, is my goal. Get out and do stuff because
Mhm.
I do get homesick very easy.
Totally. I get
I want to
that.
keep. I want to keep going to the gym
Yeah.
and
Love
work
it.
in things like walking on the beach while the weather's nice. Get that
Mm.
sand workout. And
Mhm.
otherwise, I just want to be happy.
Love it.
Whatever that means, I'm learning that it's possible to be
Yeah.
happy. It's crazy, but it is possible, and it does take hard work.
Yeah, it really does. It takes like intentionality. It
Hmm.
takes thinking about your mindset.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't want to have to think about being happier, but I feel like when you're in a place that's like full of challenge, and maybe like I was diagnosed with depression in the past year, and so it's
Mhm.
like how do you move forward from that? And sometimes it's super intentional, and sometimes you have to really like dig in and do stuff on purpose, and other times it's just like natural and flowing because you're doing things that you love.
Yeah.
And I think a mixture of those two is kind of necessary.
Yeah, and I highly suggest therapy for anybody out there who's
Hmm.
considering it. It is great. It's like I have somebody to talk to who isn't intermingled in everything that I do, and it's like
Hmm.
having a personal cheerleader. It's really
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. I have my therapy session today in two
Oh,
hours.
good.
And so it's like, it's been, like you said, somebody who's on your team who's
Mhm.
not like invested in the rest of your life in this other way.
Yeah.
They're a professional, and they're trained to support you in these different ways that you haven't probably been taught throughout
Yes.
your life,
And it
you
took me a
know?
couple different therapists to find one that really does work. So, shop around. That's
Yeah.
definitely part of it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just like go to therapists that they don't mesh with, and they're like, therapy doesn't work for me. And it's like, well,
Exactly.
you might have just been talking with an asshole.
The best therapist I've ever had was actually a girl I graduated high school with, and
Oh,
she
wow.
moved out of the area, got her degree, came back, and we got paired up, and she, like had them call and ask, "Is this okay? Because we know each other." And I thought, yeah, that's kind of nice. And so I didn't have to explain
Mm.
background. She grew up the same era as me. It was really cool. It was really nice, and she
Yeah,
taught me a lot. So
that is
much
cool.
appreciated.
Yeah, I I don't know how I'd feel about like knowing someone that was my therapist. Although one of my therapists, we found out that I knew her dad through comedy.
Oh, okay.
Because there was this guy who kept coming out, and when I eventually it just kind of clicked, and I was like, "Is your dad Gary?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I'm like,
That's so funny.
"Oh." She's like, "That has never happened before."
That is
And
wild.
yeah, so like I was doing mics with my therapist's dad or whatever.
That's so
And
funny.
yeah, and yeah, it's just such an important thing because I don't know about you, but I'm very hard on myself. I
Yeah.
tend to like not speak in the friendliest of terms inside my head all the time. And so like somebody else to kind of like snap me out of that has been super helpful over the past few years.
Yeah.
I think that's hilarious that they didn't even know you had cancer. They're like, "Oh, you have you had cancer." But that just shows how much you've grown and how you don't let it define you, you know? Like
Yeah.
that's awesome, I think, you know. You're like,
Yeah.
"No, I have a lot of other fucked up shit that I got to go through."
Yeah, exactly.
Cancer barely makes the list.
For real. Yeah, cancer was maybe the best thing that ever happened to me. It got me out of a job that I really hated, and
Yeah.
it allowed me to realize that I could be doing things that make me happy, and I don't have to do all the things that don't make me happy. You still have to work
Right.
and have a job, but it doesn't have to be that one.
Yeah, I would love to see. Have you ever written that premise? Cancer might have been the best thing that ever happened to me. Like, how could you unpack that on stage? That's something that I think would be super interesting to hear more about, you know?
Yeah, I have a bit kind of similar, just that when they told me it was cancer, it was a relief because what I thought it was a baby,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I would have a
Oh, good.
toddler right now. So
Could have been much worse. Yeah.
yeah,
You just got to experience eyebrowlessness.
yeah, exactly.
You were part
Yeah,
of the uneyebrowed community.
be a whoopee.
Yeah. Sorry. Sometimes
It's
I'm
okay.
like I have so many things moving forward, and I'm not like my head isn't in other places, but I'm just like, okay, where's all the stuff? How can I focus? I was also diagnosed with ADHD this year. Is focus a thing for you? Because that's something that
No,
I'm trying to work on.
no, I also was diagnosed with ADHD this past year,
Yeah.
which just the diagnosis has helped me give
Uh,
myself a break, because part of my ADHD is I want to do 20 projects. I want to complete every task. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you got 10 chores to do, and then I feel so bad if I don't get them done. That's where my depression
Yeah.
kicks in.
Yeah.
So just giving myself some grace and knowing that, like, okay, your brain wants to do all this, but a normal person would only do
Mm-hmm.
3 of those things. So, you know,
Right.
writing things down, making a list, and then checking
Uh-huh.
off helps me daily, make me feel like I'm being productive and doing things.
Yeah, I I was on the lists for a while. Like that
Mm,
was a big part of my day, like day to day. But then like I got a day job and I'm like, I don't have time to make a list.
yeah.
But it's the same thing. I think I had a similar experience as far as like getting I don't know if I got diagnosed. I filled out a form and I met the criteria for
Hmm.
ADHD. Several people kind of suggested I might have it, medical professionals, not just
Hmm.
my friend Dale or
Yeah.
whatever, but it's like yeah, several people suggested it might be that. And then like when I don't know about you, but when I like find research or follow people that talk about ADHD symptoms and stuff, I'm like, yes, okay, I feel that. That feels so relevant to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I do
And
too.
yeah, it has been a relief, but I also don't want to let it define me too much.
No, I think when I was diagnosed, I think that I diagnosed my dad at the same time, because a lot of the
Mm,
things that I do, I just attributed to, like, oh, that's genetics. I do it because I saw my dad do it. But
right.
I don't know that that's true. I think we both probably had it, and yeah, I use it for good, I think. I think I use my
Mm,
ADHD for good and not for evil.
mm. How so? What do you mean?
Well, sometimes I like having 20 projects started, and I
Mm-hmm.
like the feeling of wanting to stay in action once I'm going, kind of a
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
What I don't
No,
like is the racing thoughts of not being able to kind of organize. Like, I've got those 20 projects and I don't know which one to start, so then I'm frozen in fear.
yeah, the paralysis, the
Hmm.
analysis paralysis or whatever.
Analysis paralysis, that's great.
Another ADHD thing that I saw was like being overly like critical of your social interactions
Yeah.
or like thinking back about, oh, I was such an idiot, or I blew that conversation, or like I should have done this a lot better, you
Yeah.
know. And it's like, oh, it's like it feels good to have not something to pin it on or blame it on, but to kind of have an explanation for some of these things. I'm so sensitive. I'm such a sensitive guy,
Yeah.
and and so like there's so many things that have been a challenge for me throughout my life that ADHD kind of explains.
Hmm.
You know, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
you were always the crier, or you were always the person who needed extra something or other, or you're the person who gets overwhelmed a lot, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, and so, like, to be aware of potentially why was super helpful for me. I don't know.
Yeah. I felt the same way about my cancer, because right before then
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't feeling well, but I thought it was mental health. I thought I was feeling depressed, and I thought I
Oh,
was manifesting physical ailments from that. So I had been going to the doctors and I was taking medication. I was trying. And so when they said, no, this is cancer and you have a 10-pound tumor in your belly, I thought,
Jesus.
oh, well, thank God I'm not crazy. You know,
Yeah.
this is something real and it's tangible and it's not in my head.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I felt the same way with that ADHD diagnosis. It's like, okay, some of this is out of your control and you just
Yeah.
have to live with that.
Yeah. I didn't realize how positive you were, Jessica. You're like, oh, thank God it's just cancer.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, that shows you how much I really didn't like working at the library anymore.
yeah. Yeah. And yeah, the best thing that's ever happened to you in so many ways. I mean, like, you, you hear all these terms like blessing in disguise and blah, 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 but then you go through shit. And it's not until you're on the other side, I think, that you get to kind of like feel the relief.
Yeah.
My one of our friends, comedian friends around here, his name's Gary. He's a doctor, um, different Gary, and he told me when I was like hurt or I had a big infection. My elbow was like the size of a softball. And he told me about this term called concretization, where when you're sick, you don't realize, you don't think about it, doesn't feel like you're ever gonna not be sick.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
such a dickhead move by our brain to be like, oh yeah, well, we're just stuck here forever. This is how it's gonna be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's
for
like,
me, go for it.
I was gonna say, when you have a terrible cold and you can't remember what it's like to breathe through your nose, you're like, oh, I took that for granted.
Yeah, exactly. Every time I'm sick, I talk about that because it's like, oh, I feel like a fucking champion now, like just because I
Yeah.
can breathe out of my right nostril, right? Again, and so it's like, oh, I'm so thankful that I'm not there anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I can't like really identify with people who haven't been through the shit. And that's why comedians, I think, connect so quickly, is because you've been through the mud with them. Like,
Yeah.
if someone's doing it, they've been through some shit. They've handled a heckler. They've been at a mic with nobody there. They've traveled to Des Moines for a 12-seater, like
Yeah.
you've seen some shit. And so it's nice to have that camaraderie. And that's what the festival's for, right? Like,
Yeah.
essentially, to just go there and hang out with your comedian friends.
It's the best.
Yeah, it's the best. And that was the last. I think that was the last fest I was a part of. Was Savage in, when was it? September? Do we have dates
October.
for the upcoming year? October. Okay.
Yeah, 11th through the 13th, I think, this year.
Yeah. When does all that planning start? Is it like started
happening.
now?
Yeah, it's happening behind the scenes, and
Yeah. Do you have a role in there, like in any of the planning aspect, or like?
I'm helping design the logo this year and the
fun.
flyers and stuff like that. Yeah, occasionally, well, usually closer to the time, he'll kind of hand out a list of names and sets and have a couple of us help coordinate shows, which is fun because I like to book, my dream lineup.
Right. How cool.
I don't even put myself on those shows. I just get to watch.
Yeah, it's so fun when like friggin' Pepitone or whoever comes by and you get to see that shit. Oh my god. Pepitone was here. He's hilarious. That guy's
he is great.
Monster. Yeah. Who else did I see at the club? I saw Lizzie Cooperman in the past few months. Have you ever seen Lizzie Cooperman?
Yes. Yeah. She plays piano, right?
Plays is a friendly term.
Yes, okay.
But there is like
she has a piano.
Yeah, there is some kind of keys on stage with her. She just blew me away. She was all over the place, and like I'd never seen her before. Anyways, yeah, like that. You do it because you love the game, you love comedy. You see all these fun friggin' weirdos getting to do that on stage. It's such a gift, right?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I love it. So yeah. One of the questions I kind of start to wind down the conversation with is about how you've grown, as a comedian, or like if you could tell young Jessica, early Jessica, beginning comedy Jessica, anything, if she could take anything to heart, what do you wish she knew when she was starting on this journey?
That it's, first of all, ditch the notes. It's okay to go on stage without your notebook. You don't have to have it written on your hand. I noticed that I do better kind of in a free form. I have my pre-written jokes, but if I just let them flow naturally, that, and dude, you don't need to be so nervous.
Yeah.
There's no reason. It's not that big of a deal. Whether you're performing in front of 10 people or 1,000 people, it's still supposed to be fun.
Right. Yeah. And so keeping that fun in mind is one of the key things, right? How do you keep that in mind? Do you have to remind yourself? How do you try to have fun?
Yes, I do have to remind myself every show that this is for fun.
Yeah.
And just rolling with the punches. I think I used to set myself up for failure by writing my set, having it, exactly the way that I want it to, and then I show up to the show and it's not the crowd I was expecting. It's older people, or it's younger people, or it's, one time I did a bit about, it was very anti-woman,
Mm-hmm.
Not intentionally, but I did it to a room full of women, and they were like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, this is not for us."
Yeah.
So
Not loving it.
yeah, so just being able to roll with the punches, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's one of those things that I struggle with as well, because I think I'm not great at memorizing stuff. So I do like to have a set list like just on a
Hmm.
table nearby, because I'm a visual person and I like to flow. I love to flow and go wherever the night leads us on
Hmm.
stage and where the audience wants to go. They deserve that feeling of spontaneity, but I feel like I'm better able to access it when I am prepared. So I
Yeah,
have that skeleton in place. It's like, okay, I am prepared to do this 10-minute set one way or another. But if I don't touch my notes, I love that.
yeah,
Like it's so rewarding when you're like, oh, I just did 20 minutes and didn't look at the cheat sheet once or
yeah.
whatever. That does feel good. But I like to I feel like that conversation as far as notes or no notes, I lean on the notes are okay side.
Oh, absolutely. If Jerry Seinfeld can bring his notebook on stage, I've had a couple bookers be like, "You're not going to
Yeah.
take your notes up there, right?" It's like, well, do you want me to remember what I'm talking about?
Right. Yeah. I'm
Or do
not
you
like
want me to?
reading a script. It's just like
Yeah.
little touch points throughout the set. So it's like, okay, I'm back on track.
I still do that. I just give myself kind of a broader range of, I'm not trying to do the perfect 5-minute set. I'm just having things
Mhm.
that'll jog my memory.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and it's so funny. Comedy's so damn fickle. It's like you can have a perfect 5-minute set at the first show of the night, and then you go to the next show or the next venue or the next night, and you're like, crickets. Nobody
Yeah.
gave a flying fuck about that
Uh-huh.
set tonight. And I know these jokes are gold, and I know this is a
Yeah.
fun set. And so it fucks with your head too.
Yeah.
So like, okay, how can I keep it fun? How can I keep it joyful? And I've gone so far as like I write joy. I write the vibe that I want to imbue a set
Hmm.
with on the set list. So I keep that in mind. So
That's
that's
cool.
even more present. So I'm like, okay, how can I just kind of like make this more of what I want it to be?
Hmm.
So that's part of the fun. And
Yeah.
you know what? I still do have fun up there.
Yeah, I
Sometimes
do.
you need those sets that are just like, oh, this was so fun. I had such a good time.
Yeah.
And hopefully, those just keep rolling. Do you have any shows coming up? Do you have any fun shows or things you're looking forward to?
I'm producing a show called Comedy Sing Song Roulette at the club on June 13th. It's a
Uh-huh.
Thursday night, and it's a show where comics go up and do their regular sets, followed by a randomly chosen karaoke song.
Fun.
So they choose a number between 1 and 100 and sing the song that correlates with that on the list. And they get what they get, and I use top Billboard 100 chart toppers, so
Yeah.
they should at least know. It's funny when people are like, I don't know this song. It's like, well, the words are right there for you. Coincidentally.
Figure it out. You can
But
do Genie in a Bottle somehow.
yeah, it's fun. We had one comic get YMCA, and he did the whole thing in like a death metal growl, and it's
Heck
a
yeah.
fun show. So I'm looking forward to that. I hope people show up and the audience can sign up and come up and do a song too, but they don't get to choose their song, so it's just a little added layer of
I love that.
excitement.
Oh, I would have a blast. I'd totally love to do that.
Yeah.
I love a challenge on a show. I saw Sam Talent once. He was on this show called Late Late Breakfast, and you have to perform challenges during your comedy set.
Oh.
And he would be doing a set, and then on the screen behind him was Seal's "Kiss from a Rose,"
Uh-huh.
the lyrics for a karaoke version. And every time it got to the chorus, everyone in the crowd and Sam would have to start singing the chorus.
That's so funny.
So it was like Sam doing the middle, his Sam thing, and then singing "Kiss from a Rose," and it just felt like a normal Sam set almost.
Yeah,
You know
that's
what I mean?
hilarious.
I love that kind of stuff, and so it's so fun when you get to have those kind of nights. We have a PowerPoint show in a week or two that I'm excited to be a part of. So it's nice to flex those muscles, kind of stretch yourself a little bit on stage with something non-traditional.
Yeah, we're really lucky at the club. Chris lets us, not do whatever we want, but we get to stretch our legs and experiment. And this one's been a pretty fun show, so I'm looking forward to it.
That's awesome. All right. And when is that? What was the date?
June 13th. It's a Thursday at 9 o'clock.
Cool. June 13th, Thursday, 9 o'clock. Check it out at the Savage Henry Comedy Club in Eureka.
Yes.
Cool. Jessica, you're dope. It's always so nice to be able to chat and be on shows with you, and I'm excited for the next time. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Right on. Thank you so much for having me, Rudy. Take care.
Yeah, absolutely. If you could stick around for a minute after we click the end, that'd be great. And yeah, I'm super stoked to see you're still like doing a bunch of stuff and like just kind of like kicking cancer's ass and starting your business and keeping up comedy. Hell yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Right on. Well, check out Jessica's album, Kinda Sexy, Spotify, all the places. And we'll see you next time.
Jokes in the gym. Jokes in the gym. Not jokes in the gym. Jokes in the gym. Jokes in the gym.
With Rudy Tibersi.